Welcome, everybody. I am so excited that you joined us today for this amazing conversation. And before we start, I want to read a quote. A great relationship is about two things. First, appreciating the similarities, and second, respecting the differences. Now, today we have an amazing relationship coach on with us today. We're going to dive into this all a little bit, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. Like I said, he is an amazing relationship coach from LA, and he is dedicated his life to serving others in the area of relationships, helping people improve their lives one relationship at a time. Now, Jason, he has received a variety of trainings that has and is equipping him to be the go-to person. If you need any help with relationships, he's your guy. Now, his life mission is to empower his clients to understand their own needs, their values, and the triggers to develop a strong sense of self and build a solid foundation for lasting connections. So I'm so excited to have Jason with us today. Welcome, Jason. Anything else you want to say about yourself?
Nothing about myself. I think you did a great job. I'm honored to be here. Appreciate you considering me for this interview, this time, this space.
Yes. I've been watching you from afar, and you are doing some amazing things for sure. So we're going to just dive right into it then. And when I talk a lot about living life bold, and I believe that, we want to live bold lives in all areas of our lives. So relationships is definitely an area of our lives that we want to live life bold. So when we talk about living life boldly, when it comes to relationships, what does that really mean to you?
Yeah, so that's a good question, right? Because you never really think about that. You never really think about, okay, how can I live boldly in relationships? And I think for me, personally, I think living boldly in relationships means that I'm determined and committed to live out my relationship with a willingness to step out of my norm and my comfort zone, right? It's the willingness to say, you know what, I refuse to settle for anything less than God's best for me.
Wow.
That's to me, it's living boldly that way, right?
Wow.
And I think when we look at like real life examples about that, right? I think when we see that in real time, to walk boldly and be boldly in your relationship, it's things like setting boundaries, right? It's things like expressing your vulnerabilities, having tough conversations, right? Being assertive and advocating for yourself. That's key, right? And I believe that if we can just embrace some of those, that it's not going to just breathe life into the relationship, but it's going to help sustain it, right? And so that's what I really think for me, that's what living boldly in a relationship means.
My world, you just came out the gate strong, Jason. I mean, you really did. You came out the gate strong. You gave us an example of, what that can look like. You talked about tough conversations, being assertive, and sometimes that could be, really, really challenging. Have you ever supported anybody in any of those areas where you were able to help them overcome that in their relationship?
So yeah, so a time comes to my mind where I remember I was coaching this young lady just around the areas of spiritual and personal development. And so she gave me her goals, right? And I said, okay, these are your goals, but what's been stopping you from getting there? And she's like, well, this and that, X, Y, and Z. And at that moment, I had a revelation. I realized that she's not not reaching her goals because of the person that she's in a relationship with. She's not reaching it because she has a failure to understand that the moment you don't live boldly, the moment you decide to be passive is the moment you begin to build a life that's going to hold you captive, right? And so you're going to be in this prison. You're going to be in this frustration because you want to elevate. You want to be a higher version of yourself. You want to live life to the full, right? And so it's like one of those things, and I'm like, you know what? Okay, so if you want to be a higher version of yourself, if you want to live life, right, to your potential, if you want to do that, then what's going to happen is, number one, you're going to have to face those people pleasing tendencies. That's number one, right? But number two, you're going to have to set some tough, bold, and gutsy boundaries, right? That they may not have a good reaction to because they're not used to that coming from you. And so that's going to be scary. That's going to be scary. But watch this. Boundaries require boldness. They require boldness. And so you got to be willing to set that. And so, long story short, she did the work. She gave the boundaries. She put the boundaries up. And watch this. To our surprise, the person she was in a relationship with had a type of response that far exceeded our expectations. Because see, that's what the enemy wants us to do. The enemy wants us to imagine worst case scenarios to the point where it paralyzes us, where we don't be bold and we don't step out and live life to the full, even in our relationships. And so I remember doing that, and I remember helping her through that. And to me, that was a great experience.
Absolutely. Oh my God. I'm sure both of them definitely appreciated that. And you said something when you sent me your mission statement, and I want you to elaborate that on more. So I'm going to reread it. You said that your life mission is to empower your clients to understand their own needs, values, triggers, and to develop a stronger sense of self and build a solid foundation for lasting connections. I was like, wow, that was really, really, really good. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, so I think it's a lot with it. It's a lot in that, but I think passion when it comes to relationships, it's not necessarily like some coaches or some people who have a passion, they want to focus on the other person. Oh, this, that, the other person. But for some reason, I have a passion for itself. If we can get self together, right? If you can learn what your values are, if you can learn what you need, right? If you can get a greater sense of self, then you can show up in a relationship and you can advocate for yourself in a relationship in a way it's totally different. And so I've been through so many relationships where it's like they just went, and not really because of the other person, it's because of me. It's because I was pointing the finger without pointing it back at me.
Oh my, you saying
Right.
something.
You see what I'm saying? And so to me, I feel like God gave me that mission. Everything you've been through, right? Everything you've been through, I need you to use that. I need you to bring an awareness to that. And I just feel like my mission is really it's self-awareness. It's really self-driven. It's really that.
Yes. I mean, and that's really, really good. So in you saying that, it really made me think about how, in life, we have many relationships. We have relationships with like our parents, our family, our friends, our coworkers. Is there any type of cheat code that you could suggest that can be used and be applied, in all those relationships, or most relationships, should I say?
Yeah. So that's a good question. That's a good question because I already believe that a lot of the things are transferable. The things that you would do in dating is the same thing you can slide on over to marriage. You know what I mean? The same things that you do in the marriage and in dating, it's a little different, but you can kind of do the same things in friendship. And so I think there's a cheat. I think it's 5 things, right? It's 5 things. Let me pull it up because I want to make sure I get that right, right?
Okay.
I want to make sure I get that right because this is important to me.
Okay.
And so to me it's 5 laws. It's 5 laws,
Mhm.
right? And so let me get that for you real quick.
You've given us such great information already, talking about facing people pleasing, setting boundaries, I mean,
Yeah,
what I love that you said is boundaries require boldness.
they do. They really do. They really do. And I
And
don't know. I don't know why I don't see it here, but let me just go off of what I know. All
okay.
right. And so this right here, I believe, is 5 laws to get in relationships right. You can literally across the board. So number one, we talked about it, just self-awareness, If you can raise your level of self-awareness, you'll be better off, right? If you can start understanding yourself, understanding what you need, what you value, understanding your weaknesses, your strengths, all of that, right? So that's number one. Another law that you have to follow if you want to get relationships right is communication. I'm telling you, communication to your relationship is what blood is to the body, right?
Say
If
that
we can,
again. Say that again. That was rich.
so communication to the relationship is what blood is to the body, right? So what blood does is it carries all the essential things that the body needs. Anything that your relationship is going to ever need is going to be traveled or carried through communication. So you got to know how to communicate. You can't sit there and say, well, I just don't do this and don't do that. Well, you don't want a healthy relationship, right? The third law is going to be emotional intelligence. Come on. If we can learn how to manage, identify, right? And it kind of just see what's going on within us emotionally and manage the emotions of others well. I'm telling you, we win. And another one would be leadership intelligence, right? Self-leadership. I don't care what your goals is in a relationship, if you don't know how to navigate yourself through that, where are we going? And lastly is social intelligence, right? That interpersonal skills. How do we relate? How are we relating? Are we relating in a healthy way? Right. So I think those are 5 things those are cheat codes. If you can get those things right, those things apply in all areas of those relationships that you mentioned.
Wow. Now I'm gonna push you a little bit.
Yeah.
If you could give me like a quick example, some people are visuals. I would be one of those people. Of what that actually, I think you talked a little bit about self-awareness. I think we're kind of clear on that. But like an example of communication, having healthy emotional intelligence and social intelligence, what it looks like when it's healthy and what it looks like when it's not.
Yeah. So for communication, right? So communication, when it's unhealthy, you're going to experience, I think, 3 things. You're going to experience breakdowns, right? Where now the momentum of your conversations, you lose that and it goes in the wrong direction. So we're having conversations and it just clashes and it begins to break down. We're not making any type of momentum. We're not even going in the right directions. You got barriers. Number 2, barriers. Those are walls that we start putting up. We start putting those walls up when we don't want to hear certain things, something rub us the wrong way. We start putting walls up. And now what happens is when you put those barriers up, now communication can't penetrate. I can't get to you because you've put a wall up. And the last one is you're going to experience blow-ups. Right? So blow-ups literally means now we are no longer conversating like we are allies. We are at war with each other like we're enemies. You see what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes. This is so rich, so rich.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So that's, to me, when your communication starts to show those 3 levels, it's not going well. Right. When it is going well, right? When it is going well, now we have this level of empathy, we have this level of understanding, right? We're speaking each other's language. It just begins to flow, and then it begins to be where what you're trying to communicate is successfully being transmitted to the other person.
I hope you guys could see why he's the go-to person. And we only talked about communication. We ain't hit the other 2 yet. All right, let's move on to number 2 then. I mean, the next one, emotional intelligence.
Okay, so and so when we think about emotional intelligence and when it looks unhealthy, like I said, it becomes this hypersensitivity. It becomes where now you're easily offended. You don't know how to articulate your emotions. You don't even know what you're feeling, right? And so that right there actually affects the communication. Because now if you're with somebody who wants to know what's wrong with you and you're not emotionally intelligent, you can't even communicate that, right? Or you're communicating things that actually are not the problem.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying? It's nah, you did this and you did that. I'm angry. Well, anger is just a secondary emotion. What's under there? You're hurt, right? You're hurt there. And so that's what it can look like when it's unhealthy. But when it looks like when it's healthy, right? Then you start seeing a positive move in all four quadrants. You start seeing emotional intelligence, four quadrants, self-awareness. They have this level of self-awareness about themselves. They're realistic about themselves, right? They know what they're feeling. They can communicate it. Then you have, after you have self-awareness, then you have self-management. So they're managing themselves, right? They're managing themselves, their emotions appropriately. Then you have social awareness. Now I'm aware of what's going on with other people that I'm in relationship with. When I see you tap out, I notice that. When I see something's wrong with you, I notice it. You know what I'm saying? And then relationship management. Now, how do I manage what I've seen in you?
Mm.
Right. So when you're doing it in a healthy way, it's this flow, right? And the people feel like they feel seen, they feel heard, they feel understood, they feel like you really are empathizing with me. You understand what I'm going through, and you're actually handling me. You're not mishandling me.
Wow.
It's yeah. And
That's
so
really good. That's really good. Last one, the
yeah,
social. You
yeah.
kind of tapped a little bit on that social just a minute
I
ago.
did, I did, yeah. You can tell I really have a passion about the emotional intelligence. So
Yes,
they interweave, and so
yes,
yeah, social intelligence. I think it's just the ability when you're doing it right, you have harmonious relationships. Like we're getting along, right? Even if we have some conflict, we know how to handle that conflict resolution. We know how to handle that appropriately. You know what I'm saying? It's like I said, it's empathy. It's an awareness of what's really going on within you. We can talk. I think how we handle each other, that's important, right? When you're doing that well, then social awareness is healthy. Now, when it's not healthy, when it's not healthy, you're oblivious to what's going on in the room. You can't read the room. You know what I'm saying? Like you see things going on, you can't read it. Your interactions with people, you don't understand how unhealthy it is, right? You're projecting, you're projecting on people places that you need to heal in, right? And so it can go on and on and on. But yeah.
yes, yes. I hope you guys are taking some notes. If not, you need to go back and take some notes because he is dropping so many gems. He's giving us so much good information, telling us what it looks like, being able to set boundaries. And, he talked about the emotional intelligence, being able to be aware of what you're feeling and being able to communicate it in a way that the other person can understand and receive what you're saying. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Jason. I'm telling you now. The other thing I was thinking about, as you were talking, that we know that, we have fears and we have doubts when it comes to making those changes and having those tough conversations and things of that nature. So what are some common fears that you've seen when it comes to people being able to boldly or what causes them to push back and
Mm.
doesn't help them and to kind of help them kind of go through those roadblocks of the fears and the doubts. Does that make sense? Did you get it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, so for me, my experience, right? I mean, everybody's experience is different, but my experience in this realm of relationships and just coaching people and things like that, and my experience, the most common fear that I see show up in people, it really shows up in fruit form, right? It shows up in fruit form, but it's really one thing. So when it looks like fruit, it shows up like fear of rejection, It shows up like a fear of uncertainty, unknown, like, "Ah, I don't know what's going to happen," right? Or you just have this fear of failure, right? You have this fear of failure. Well, if I do this, I might fail, right? But to me, that's all fruit. But the real root of that is it's just a fear of ending up alone. That's really what I've experienced. It's the fear of ending up alone. And because of that fear, people don't do what is necessary because they don't want to experience that discomfort that comes along with that, right? So now when it takes a level of boldness to step out and say and have a conversation to assert yourself and to advocate for yourself, you don't want to do it because you have a fear that, well, if I say this, if I have this tough conversation, then I might push them away and I might end up alone, right? Now watch this. Now this is crazy to me, but it's real. You have some people who won't even be bold enough to pursue personal growth and even pursue their potential, their purpose, because they fear that if they begin to grow and the person that they're with does not grow, then it's gonna reveal to them a truth that they don't want to deal with. I may have to leave them. I may have to leave them. And so now when God says, I want you to do X, Y, and Z, God, you're gonna have to ask somebody else because if I do that, it may cause me to have to leave this person. I don't want to be without that person. You see what I'm saying? And so it's like some people they refuse to grow because they have such a hunger for companionship that they're willing to stay in a relationship as being a lower version of themselves.
Oh, wow.
That
That's
that right there is mind blowing,
mhm.
but it's real. It's real. Some people refuse to be bold, like you say, to be bold and to go after and live life to the fullest because they're afraid that if I do this, what does that mean for the relationship that I'm entertaining right now?
So if you were dealing with someone like that, how would what 2 or 3 things would you say to kind of walk them through that?
Yeah, I think so. What I would do to kind of try to help somebody through that is number one, we got to work on the mindset because it's something there, right? It's something going on there. We're gonna have to probably work through some strategies on self-confidence, right? And I mentioned mindset because watch this. I mentioned mindset because they have to understand that relationships in general, right? When God made relationships, it was out of a response of Adam's inability, right, to fulfill his purpose without the relationship. So relationships really, in essence, is supposed to be help. It's supposed to actually push you forward. A relationship wasn't created for you to lose yourself in the relationship, right? And so that's a mindset shift because some people find identity there. Some people they become stagnant there, and it's like no, the relationship is actually supposed to propel you forward. It's not supposed to hold you back, right? It's supposed to encourage you to be bold, right? It's supposed to do that. It's not supposed to cause you to shrink back. And so I would definitely do that. We
Wow.
doing it.
Wow, wow. Again, I say, guys, did you see why Jason is the go-to guy? Oh my world. Jason, do you have any last comments or anything that you want to share with the audience when it comes to relationship? And once you do that, if you could just share with us how people can connect with you and link up with you. If I'm going to have it in the description as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if we're going to stay within this concept of living boldly,
Mm-hmm.
I think what I would do is I would ask people, I would say, I want you to imagine your life 5 years from now. And if you were doing the same thing, what would your life look like? Right? And if you don't like what you're going to look like, then it's time to make a pivot. Because some people may think that it costs too much. That's too much to do all of that, to maybe possibly disappoint some people, right? To potentially lose people. To some people, that costs too much. But if you think that costs too much, wait until you get the bill for regret.
Get the bill for regret.
Wait until you get it. And so I encourage anybody, don't hesitate. Assess where you are in life, assess and be honest, be objective. Am I really living life to the fullest? Really living life to the level that I can? And if I'm not, then I encourage you to do some work.
Do
Yeah.
some work.
Gotta
Ooh,
do.
Jason. Oh, my world. Thank you so much. I mean, this has just been a rich, valuable conversation. You have left so many nuggets. Again, I would encourage our viewers just to go back, listen, take notes. Now, how can anybody contact you if they want to reach out to you?
Absolutely. Okay, so my website would be www.purposeinword.com.
Okay. We'll have all that in the description, but you could tell them.
Absolutely. If you
Mhm.
want to see me on Instagram, it's my first last name, Jason
Okay.
Releford. So yeah, those are my two primary places where you can find me. I'm working on that YouTube, but
Okay. Okay.
we'll get
Okay.
there.
Okay. You're doing some amazing stuff. You're doing some amazing stuff.
I
And I
appreciate
believe that you are being equipped, you are equipped, and you're going to continue to grow and evolve, and you're going to be able to help so many people when it comes to their relationships. And I love your mission where you talked about it first starts with self,
it
because we
first.
can't really give to other people if we haven't taken care of ourselves. So
Come on.
that's a great foundation right there. That self-awareness is so, so good. Thank you so much, Jason. I truly appreciate it. Look forward to speaking to you soon. Thank you guys for watching us. So we want you to continue to live bold, live well, and live life to the full. Until next time, take care. Thanks, Jason.
You're welcome.